south, pilgrims. Police still killing, black and brown brothers. They don't give a fuck. Mothership about to return and pick my people up. Watch me swim in gold like I am Scrooge McDuck. Twinkle leafy, a spirit in California. Praise the ancient goddess, light up a marijuana. Roll up the tree, set fire to the ganja. The Frango is the Diablo, always starting problems. Wear the wrong color on this coat, guaranteed to text my blow. Activate my pyramids in California, in Mexico. We got the best smoke on the West Coast. West Coast. You look for women on the West Coast. West Coast. We like to ride on the West Coast. Like a brown fry on the West Coast. West Coast.
Represented, I'm the hardest in it. Fuck the critics, ain't nobody hard as gritty. Black and brown come together, we ain't backing down. I've been in the Hardy City, got the bloodline of a king. Gotta come together, we all in the same gang. One God, one universe, all unity, and ain't shit changed. Gotta mount up, but they dumb us down with that fake shit that they teach us now. We been living in the belly of the devil, battling so we can make it out. Fuck the politics and the president, fuck the White House till they let us in. We gon' go to war, we ain't hesitant. If they want to smoke, then I'm a hella shit. We the last living of a dying breed. Ain't nobody with the pen as hard as me. Every time I rap it hit an artery. Ain't nobody fucking with my artistry. We the holy guys, we invented time. We gon' send a missile like it's Lebanon. I been eating rappers like it's dinner time. Suckers hibernating like it's dinner time.
Best smoke on the West Coast. West Coast. You look for women on the West Coast. West Coast. We like to ride on the West Coast. West Coast. Like a brown fry on the West Coast. We got the best smoke on the West Coast. West Coast. You look for women.
All aboard! It is time to hop aboard my spaceship, because you are now tuned into what is the Matrix TV. I'm your host, Jason Elm Street Williams, master navigator of the universe, and I have an amazing co-host, an amazing legendary guest, reigning all the way from Brooklyn via Florida, a legend in the game, one of my mentors and superheroes, the great and only, the wonderful Aseer, the Duke of Teers.
Peace, brother. Peace, brother. Thanks for having me on, man. Honest to everybody on the West Coast, man. Honest to everybody listening. Thank you again for having me on the platform, man. The joint was slamming. The joint was banging.
So let's get straight into it. May 24th, south of France, the people of south of France and the local Catholics celebrate Saint Sarah Cali on May 24th.
Right.
And so the story goes, y'all, of three Marys, which as we know, we use vowels, A-E-I-O-U. So with Mary, it could be Ta Mary or More, or Moor, or Mur. So basically, when they say these three Marys came, for it's three more sisters who came with knowledge, just like brothers. And when they landed on the shores of south of France, they brought their Moorish science and knowledge. Right here, you guys see a ship in the middle picture of the three sisters. So in France, to this day, they marched this sister statue all the way to the beach, almost like Oshun. And they her presence, and the gypsies praise her in secret. So when you see Kim Kardashian and her mom and them around the black woman and all these black people, that they worship these sisters in reverse. That's why the Kardashians have all the black entertainers, if you look at it. And you know, gypsy is short for Egyptian as well. So we could get into that. And then once again, the story goes that this sister was the child of Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And so once again, if she's dark-skinned, that will once again be the narrative for those who believe in that story, that Jesus Christ or Yahshua was indeed a Moor or Moor. So, brother, what is your knowledge on the so-called Moorish woman being worshipped in ancient times and antiquity? And is this going to be the future to where the divine feminine guides reality?
Indeed. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother. I
You
know
can
that
hear me,
was a
right?
loaded question.
Okay,
Yeah, I
cool.
can hear you.
Yeah, it was kind of breaking up. You was kind of going in and out. Just making
Oh,
sure.
my bad.
Yeah, I can hear you though. I hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those females, going all the way back to, like, there's been major upheavals in the ancient world, you know what I mean, consistently, and it always is about, or usually dealing with people going from one side to the next, or like betrayal and things like that. So after a while, certain systems and organizations were created that would try to shepherd these women and keep them from being, you know, subjected to a lot of the upheavals and stuff. So that's how Queen Scotia wound up in Ireland, you know what I mean, in which they want, and then met the so-called Gaelic king there. I think of the Pictish people, and then they got together and then created the first kingdom of Scotia, aka Scotland, named for her. And then she could trace her lineage. That's why they had to brought this the Scone stone. There's a stone that was the cornerstone at one of the first pyramids allegedly built, and then that's what they carried with them. So every king from that point, from their union, in order for them to be king, whatever, they would have to sit on the stone. So they created a throne for it and then put the stone under it. So years later, when the British decided that they was gonna come in and confiscate the monarchy, they couldn't do it by war or through theft or intrigue. So eventually what they did was they decided, well, let's steal the stone. So they stole the stone and then brought the stone back to England and said, well, if y'all want y'all kings to be kings according to y'all ceremony, y'all got to come here and sit on our throne and crown them over here. And then that's how the monarchy was hijacked. But at this time, allegedly, there was a lot of great so-called what we would consider today magic, but then is considered, they used to call it manna. They would say the manna from heaven. And a lot of the ancient female high priestesses, empresses and stuff, they knew how to access that. That's why they bloodline and stuff had to keep them so chaste. So the same way you had Queen Scotia there, you had the three Moorish queens that you're speaking about now that are revered by the Armenians and the so-called gypsies, but they also call the gypsies the Romanis as well.
Yes, that was their language. You're right.
Exactly.
Right. Wow.
See how they do?
Yes, because it
and
said,
then they
and for those
they also
watching,
have here in America the Queen Guadalupe. You know what I'm saying? Guadalupe, she's real big. I forget her full title, but you see her as the Madonna, but she's always over water. This one, Queen of Guadalupe. And then you got the Kiawatha, who is the goddess of the Tasalagi people.
interesting.
She's mad dark skin. You know what I'm saying? And
that's,
so
that coincides with what they're saying is that this sister stayed and the other two left. Maybe that story that you're speaking of is one of the other two sisters who went there and there. Sisters from the ocean.
They just go to different places, just like you have the stories. You have the old Malian people who said that Voodoo came from the waters, and he came with a couple of other people and then taught them how to do metallurgy and all that type of stuff. But then when you hear the so-called Aztecs, which again is a word of art, they that's not what they really call, but those people, they have the same story just in reverse, because we are still, a lot of times when we look at the ancient world, we're looking at it from the perspective of a modern understanding, when you got to understand that at one point the whole thing was connected, and what we see as oceans were more like rivers to those people then. So you could literally walk from one side of the country to the next. You know how they say you could walk to Africa through the Grand Canyon, and you could walk from India to Mexico. All of this type of stuff is real, but based upon how we've been programmed with geography in the upside down Mercator map and all of this type of stuff, you see what I'm saying? We're not really seeing the world for what it is. So when things like this actually come back into worldview, and we start to question how the environment that we are in actually is, what happens is the veils that keep it looking how we have expected it to look start to weaken. And now more and more information is now coming out. You see what I'm saying? To the contrary of the narrative that they've been putting since the invasion started in 1492. You know what I'm saying? So we're now at the last stages of it. We are the generation remembering, waking up to what happened, and are the first to articulate it in a manner that actually makes sense to the youth. Because the youth, like we was growing up, they was constantly giving us the victim subject treatment, meaning that you was taken from slaves from Africa, you don't have no language, you didn't have this, the white people own you, this, and that. So that's all we was taught. That's all we understood. And whenever we looked at something indigenous, they always made sure when we looked that way, it was always like a Mexican, Siberian type person that will go with that archetype. You understand? So what that did was it boxed us into a temporal tesseract that kept us regurgitating the same understanding that was given to us, and then having people that look like us mirror it back. So that's when the idea of us being connected again to Africa started to surface more and more between the late 60s and 70s, in which then that became the identity that we were now here, living here, had to associate from, which then by definition disassociated us from our direct lineal descent identity that's already here, that they've been making money off, that they've been denying us history to, because of the fact this false narrative has been regurgitated by people like whoever they needed at the time: Sharpton, Haley, Du Bois, Booker T. Washington. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's this continuous idea of bombarding you with an identity that really is not yours. And then now when you go from the perspective now, when you're telling the youth this now, it gives them a defeated sense of reality too, because it's like, well, damn, so my ancestors was just punks. They just let it go down. So what could I do? You understand? So that's different. Telling somebody as a descendant of great people to tell them, well, no, your people weren't slaves, they were enslaved, and your people actually weren't even enslaved. They were actually prisoners of war.
There you go.
So the prisoner of war identity now denotes a country. That denotes a language. That denotes a culture that I was or am connected to, you see, that I have not been able to fully understand or resurrect for myself enough, because I've been so included into this history that benefits everybody else but me.
And what
so
you
the minute
say,
I start to now look at myself, go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. But would you say that's part of the college scam picture that we have right here? And then what you're saying to the left. So you're saying that they benefited, y'all. Brother Duke of Teers is explaining that financially they benefit. When I was teaching in their system, you used to get written up as a teacher if you didn't mark certain kids there. So if a kid you mark absent and they were actually there and they just didn't say, "Hi, Mr. Williams," you got in trouble. And that's when I found out that every day a kid is in class, they make money. You know, I didn't know that. So when it comes to K through 12, it's a scam. And college, because like Brother Duke of Teers is saying, we weren't taught this in K through 12. So it is a subliminal attack on our subconscious. That's why they put it K through 12. They don't say 1 through 12. K is the letter or the number 11. So what they're saying is 11 through 12, we're just programming you. We're rewiring you like Vicky the robot, you know. So the K through 12 system is a scam. It's a miseducation system, and this is what we're coming into with the new star system, y'all. For me, as Moors and Moors, we were able to, like the last episodes, I explained how I just got back from a cruise where I got these artifacts of old Mecca, y'all. But when I was on the cruise, it hit me I said, man, that's what brothers and sisters were doing. We were traveling all throughout the planet, different land masses, and we would bring our infinite knowledge and information, whether it was certain herbs for agriculture, certain ways to drain sewage, all these magnificent things. And then each land, before I would say the troglodytes got out the caves, for me, it seems as if, let's say I wanted to learn how to harness fire in my hand. I would have to go to this land and study maybe for 40, 20 years.
Exactly.
Or if I wanted to learn about agriculture, I go to this land, or masonry, all these different sciences. Because if you have cousins like in Louisiana, Miami, you have cousins in Compton, Riverside, each of y'all have different styles on the matrix grid, y'all. So that means that your experience, the wind that's hitting your head different in different regions is going to give you a different science and way of teaching. When you travel to different regions, you're really a god, and that's why how you see we were revered or revered by the humans when we would return to those lands as gods is because we gave them a new reality. Clearly, they were on a lower base reality, and when we come, just like in this world, when we come into the room, like when you see a brother Duke of Teers dressed like that, automatically. It gives you some type of sense of thinking, knowledge, and for the main thing is you don't look at him as a nigger. It's an identification. When I was on the cruise, I said this was our passport, and then also different headdresses, most likely. So when they have the pirate hats compared to turbans, and these did that represent a different like
era? That's a whole different
era. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a whole different era. Like we didn't have to, by the time we started writing things down and etching it into stone, like what we understand as the primary civilization was already over, because we had to become more and more responsible with the raising of the DNA of those beings that weren't necessarily of the same thing. So the more time you tended to raising them up, like you've had a garden, you know what it means to have to maintain a garden. Like you got to plant at a certain time. You got to make sure that the roots is covered to a degree. You got to make sure that it's not too many people coming in and messing it up. But then the gardenias might not grow at the same rate that the roses grow. You know what I mean? So so it's a lot of maintaining. So this is what we're doing. The more you're doing that, the more physically you become more physically anchored to the third density. Whereas before that, we're back and forth. We're in the reality, out of the reality. We're in this place, out of this place. Yet the more time we start spending and the more time we start to have to, again, expel this type of energy, that's why it would be a thing where we would give the science and then bounce. And then wouldn't see them for generations and generations. And then by the time we come back, we're now seen as the gods that gave them the knowledge on the walls and stuff like that, right? But we're just carrying on what was already done for the people that look like us that came before us. You see what I'm saying? So we are the only constant in the reality because we are the ones that keep coming back and keep remembering why we came back. Everybody else is almost coming back and is almost content to live the way that they live in, right? Whereas us, for some reason, we don't have an army. We don't have any of these things that any of these other countries, melanated or not, have. Yet and still, we seem to be the most dejected by everybody. So when you ask yourself, I never did anything to a South African or an Israeli or anybody like, but for them to say, the premier of Israel came and said that the biggest problem that they foresee in the future is the so-called young American, so-called black populace. This is them. So they're at war, bombing people, doing all that, and they looking at us as that. Why? Well, because they know genetically. And what nobody wants to accept is the fact that, like I said, at one point, the entire landmass was laid out. So it was possible to literally walk or use the oceans like rivers to get to each part. But then after the upheavals happened, right, you had certain parts that were now sectioned off from other parts. And when you had that section, the first to rise out of the Younger Dryas and all of the stuff that happened landmass wise was over here. And us over here then went back and tried to reestablish contact with everybody else in all of the different dominions in the world that had been cut off by that time. This is about 11,600 after the Younger Dryas. So when we start to really do the knowledge, what that means is that we are not the descendants. Like, we don't look the way we look because we're descended from necessarily anybody else. We are descended from the people we descend from, but by no means are those people regulated to one part of the planet. That's why everybody that look like us in whatever country they in, they going through the same type of racial problems or little idioms and stuff, colorism and stuff, right, that we going through here. It's just the way they're going through it. Because when empire fell, everybody had to do for self. And so people start calling themselves different things. People start going into different angles. People start to revert back to the things that started the war in the first place, such as the human sacrifice and the bloodletting of the children and all of that. So this is the issue that we're finding today, because we're still dealing with the same systems that initiated it. But in retrospect, it's not necessarily the system that is the issue. It's who has the finger on the mechanism at the present moment dictates to how good or so-called bad it is, if you want to use a dichotomy. So when we talk about the enemy, right, everybody wants to use words like Illuminati and the Freemasons and the different papal families, right, the bloodlines, Baphomet, all of the buzzwords that we've heard over the years. What people are failing to grasp in this whole thing is that the enemy, the true goal of the enemy is wasn't about setting up any of those things. All of those things are just functionaries of the main purpose of the war. And unless you understand that almost on a genetic level, you're always going to be looking at it. You're going to be missing how the enemy what the true enemy goal is. And that goal is the enemy is fighting a war against the ultimate creator, the one that we refer to as the Holy of Holies, the God, the supreme intelligence, Allah, whatever you want to call it, the highest aspect of self, right? Some of us Moors in America will call that Allah, which is like arm, leg, leg, arm, head, right? So that is what the essence of creation of all sources, and that love that went into the blink that created all of us in the physical world, which is imperfect, right? They're at war with that. Okay? That is everlasting. That cannot really be warred against, right? So what they have to do is use the elements of it, right, to wound it, to hurt it, right? Because love is amor, right? Love means amor, right? And God is love, right? So when the enemy focuses its war on the children, whether it be Moloch, whether it be Baal, whether it be Attis, whether it be the Areopagite, whatever dead entity they trying to sacrifice things to, regardless of what name it is, whatever it is, right? It's not about the God that they're doing it to, because they know that it don't exist. They know that it don't have the power to do what they want to do. That's not what they're doing it for. They're sacrificing the children because the children are the essence. They're closest to God. They're closest to that divine source that you understand and we understand as the most purest and perfect thing. What is more perfect than an infant baby?
So what was
nothing?
So if the so-called pale-skinned Europeans who took over the Holy Roman Empire what were the righteous Moors doing in their position for the children then? If the so-called pale skins are doing bad things, that meant that the brothers and sisters were doing good. What things is that? Think that the
Well,
Black
they were
Panther
warring
Party
against. You
adopted?
had two sides, though.
Okay.
You had two sides, though. Remember, because these things didn't exist really in mass until the late 1900s, the way we understand them now. When we see Caucasian people now today, we're seeing the amalgamation of all of the things that went into getting them here. And then the ones we're seeing today, a huge percentage of them is passing. Most of them ain't even Caucasian like that. They passing to be that. Because the Eve gene has the ability to make everybody how she want, whatever type of mutation. So you had a lot of people that you think that was white, like people like Eisenhower, people like Robert Lee, all these people that you think is Caucasian because they done made them look mad white, or then created decoy pictures of what these people really look like. But they were the opposite of that. And plus, white at one point had nothing to do with color. It didn't become a color thing until after the 1800s and all that, when they wanted to associate the color with the status. It was always about status. We were the white people because we were the ones descended from Arianis, as they say, the true so-called Aryans, right?
So would that be the Slavic in the middle picture who has chains around
yes,
chest?
That is a picture of Lord Salahuddin, right? That's Lord Salahuddin in the middle with the turban on. Next to him is the slave that was fighting on behalf of the Guidon of Robert de Chantillon, who was the real Moorish dude that Salahuddin was fighting against. So what you had was a bunch of, so when you talk about abolitionists, that wasn't something that just started in the 1800s. That was really put to those who were fighting for their own freedom against, at that time, what had become the splintered Moorish Empire. So when the Moorish Empire fell, the stronghold fell in 1492 or 492, it reorganized itself as the Osman Ali, Atami or Atamanguan, who they refer to as Ataman Turks or Mystic Turks. And then they militarized the whole thing. This is what ushered in the era of the Barbary states, the Barbary powers, the Christian slave narratives. So they took the opposite. So up until the fall of Granada, we trying to just maintain things because we're really fighting against our own children who have now been working these illicit magics that we outlawed, right? And have now decided to upgrade a class, right? And then infect them with the Nazis refer to as a vril, but it's a type of worm with a consciousness. And what that worm does is grab on to the eye, but it can be passed on sexually. So what happened was these mulatto type Moors, they started to lose power, right? So they started to, try to hold on to it by bargaining. And so one of the things they did was when they didn't have money to pay for the tribute, for the tariffs for their people and stuff, right? They got to a point where they started selling they serfs. They would clean the serfs up, put them in the seraglio that you would call a harem, but it was called the seraglio. And then in the seraglio, they would refine them. They would hook them up. That's where you see all them old paintings of the old Moorish women with all of the white women in the harems and stuff, getting cleaned up, washed up. They would wash them up. But what they did was these chicks was infected with the worm. Yes. So these chicks was infected with the worm. And then what the worm would do is it would ritualistically go into these Moors, and then these Moors would become obsessed. And then they would try to have more babies with them because it's a parasite. So when they had these babies with them, remember, these Caucasian chicks and everything, they still slaves. So these Moors who are now transfixed like Othello, right? Or like the Merchant of Venice, right? They're transfixed with these fair-skinned chicks because they've been bewitched. They've been infected with this parasite that's wanting them to get more so they can procreate more with them and not their own people, right? So these ones that's now procreated, that got this graft and this devil worm in them, this trichina worm in them, they have the seeds with them. These seeds now, the sons, the daughters, They were what you would consider today light skin, mulatto, whatever, but they're being raised in Moorish education. Their mothers are still slaves though, so they still seeing their mothers as slaves. So what does that do? It creates an impetus between them against their fathers. And so now you get a whole new generation that's now calling themselves Castile and Aragon. And now we're going to get enough money to buy the kingdom back and give all of our mother side of the family their titles. You see? And now this becomes an internal war that's not even about race, but now it's become racial on the low. So this festers now because you got different types of Moors. Now you got black Moors. Now you got tawny Moors. Now you see what I'm saying? Now you got Moriscos. Now you got Conversos. But it wasn't like that. All of these subgroups now are now urged to, again, unify and allow themselves to become decoys for the dirty Moors, right? The older ones who basically set all of this up in the first place. Why? Because we shut all of them down during the millennial reign and all that. We shut all the human sacrifice and all that shit down based on what they did to Yeshua. And we did all of that. So Yeshua technically was the last human sacrifice, if we really get into it. That's why everybody was free after that. You understand? And then when the millennial reign started at the close and the destruction of the so-called Temple of Jerusalem, we came in and ushered in all of the changes that led to the world almost becoming a paradise again, up until these times I'm talking about, between the late 3rd century, because the 1,000 years again is fake. And then they added that. And then these children now, and they decoy parents now, they become now the face. So when we looking at Amschel Rothschild, who set up the Rothschild dynasty, you looking at Heavy D. When you looking at the dude who started the family, the Braganza family and stuff, you looking at Giancarlo Esposito. They the same people, because all of these people was melanated. The problem again was the customary values. Who was still dealing with paganism? Who was still about the human sacrifice? Who was still fighting this war against God? Those are the secularists. Those are the so-called the secularists, or the dark hermeticists, who eventually become the magical clandestine families and stuff that you start to see venerate and start to become known in the world, like Manly P. Hall and Eliphas Levi, right? And Blavatsky and all of this. But they siphoning all of this real energy from the secret chiefs. That's what she called them. Who are they? The Moors, who are still in power in the world. It's just that all of the propaganda we're seeing now at this point between 1820 and 1890 and 1910, all of that we're seeing is now being manipulated because we're segregated. We segregated ourselves from them.
Well, is that what this?
It was never about us getting back to them. We segregated ourselves because they always had a substandard way of living. You understand? Because they weren't from here. They didn't own nothing. These buildings we already had all of that. So they had to move us out and then move into these places and then move a whole new class of people that they helped create and then put them in these places as placeholders to keep us out. And then those of us still in power, still fighting against them, still doing all of this, we're marginalized now in the dominions and the cities and the kingdoms that we're still keeping away from everybody else, that are now being infiltrated by people who look like us, that are in bed with them.
Now,
not
the
knowing
people who
that
look
now
like
we are
us,
thinking,
did they look
yes,
more similar, like a Drake type rapper, like this brother in the picture here?
Yeah.
Amalgamated
So
Moors.
when you think of the Spanish, think of people like I said, like Drake, like the Spanish or the French at this time, right? The darker ones are still in control, but the lighter ones, like I said, they're a part of this procedure. So they want their own. So when you think about the Romans or the Spanish at this point, we think about Isabella and Ferdinand at this point. Think about Mark Anthony and J-Lo. You know what I'm saying? Don't think Helen Mirren and Anthony Hopkins, okay? You gotta go back, and even then, that's even too light. I'm thinking like I said, Giancarlo Esposito, Radio Raheem, them type of Moor. These are the Spanish, these are the German, these are the Prussian, these are the what you call it, Levantines, the Burgundies, the Lombards, the Bourbons. All of these are melanated people like the ones you're showing here.
And
who again were fighting against the enemy.
And so we were talking about earlier their outfits, y'all. And the more and more get it, y'all, more and more. But the more and more I study, I look at these swords, I look at what these brothers are wearing, and I'm seeing gold, I'm seeing copper, I'm seeing amulets, I'm seeing technology as if like Iron Man or Transformers had something where you could push a button and activate these symbols and it can open up a vortex. I see on Instagram how they're creating sacred geometry things, and when they put like a metal to it, it starts spinning. So imagine our ancestors. We can do this now, but eventually this is going to be the new jewelry, y'all. But Brother Duke of Teers, can you explain some of these suits? Because they look like they were technology, like electromagnetic conductors. So if I were to put on these outfits that had copper in it, and if there's a tower, let's say the pyramids are activated, the obelisks are activated, and I could push a button on that sword or in the middle of my necklace and activate some type of etheric cord. Even underneath him looks like something. What are we looking at, Brother Duke?
What you're looking at is ether-based technology using metallurgy and forms of geomancy to power the mechanism. So the copper on the inside of the armor, the ones that we find like with his, on the inside is a rubber type resin that acts as an insulator for the body. You understand? That's why they could take the electrical current and not get burnt up, because there's a rubber type thing inside. So ask yourself, where was the knights in Europa getting rubber from when rubber come from America or South America? So that shows you the connection, right? The ones that weren't insulated, covered with that, had another form of mail, chain mail, right? That was under that would act as a compressor. Some of them actually said that they would pour water inside of it. So it was almost like a water suit. And anybody has ever read Iron Man knows that the description I've given is like almost identical to some of the mock types of the suits that he actually would have. Like one suit, it was rubber on the inside. Another suit, it was water, right? Another suit, it was like a compressor field. So he was almost floating in the suit while he in it. This is where all of this stuff comes from. All of the metallurgy and the brag, like there's an old, like some of this that you think is gold is not even gold. It's actually another form of alloy called orichalcum. And the orichalcum is basically what they used to call it magic brass. Okay. And this type of orichalcum was used to power a lot of the etherical mechanisms that you'll see in the armor, in the swords, in the buildings, right? And then on top of that, this goes back further now to Kemisia or Kemet, in which you had those priesthood who were of the Jedi, right? The Jedi were those who were focused on those high priests of Anu who were focused on accessing the so-called Kundalini Shakti, right? But they didn't call it the Shakti. I forget the Egyptian name for it. I think it's the Prana or some shit. So anyway, they were the ones who developed this. A lot of this technology, though, can be traced all the way back now to the Mauryan dynasty, which inherited the old Ramayana dynasty, in which we hear about the Vimanas, right? The Vimanas that were the flying saucers and stuff that was then used. And then a lot of that technology wound up with the so-called black melanated Nazi party that was out. They were called the Thule Society, though. or the Black Lodge that was out there, and they were the real ones fighting against the so-called Allied forces, because they were the last of the melanated armies on Earth that had united against the new
Foo Fighters,
the new Reconstructionist history that they was pushing on everybody.
Were the Nazi Foo?
Yeah.
Were the
So
Nazi Foo Fighters
all that tech is our tech.
Okay. And it's simply
say again, bro. You kind of going in and out.
Were the Nazi the Foo Fighters, like that band, were those the ones fighting the UFOs that they speak of? Are the Foo Fighters?
Yeah, your joint is mad choppy.
Oh man. Can you hear me now?
Like they messing with the feed or something. It's all good though.
Can you hear me now?
Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, I hear you better.
Okay.
Better.
Where were we at?
Like this, like what I got on here, this conical joint. On the inside of this, there are copper filaments that go up, and at the top, at the very top, you can't really see it on because I got it on the inside. There's a quartz crystal. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I'm sweating or the steam or energy that I build up while wearing it or whatever gets all channeled into it and then brought back down. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm constantly recycling my own temporal field. You understand? That's why we will wear stuff like this and all of that, because what it does is it keeps the crown chakra activated. You know what I mean? A lot of the Hebrews, but then certain, like the people who will work with the Ark, the Levite people, they were forbidden from wearing anything on the crown. So what they had to do was wear just this part around the top of their head, but leave their crowns open, because they had a different function with the technology. You see what I'm saying? So their crown chakras had to be open. You understand?
Is that what these sisters are holding? Is this what we're looking at then? Because I also see a lot of Moors.
Exactly. Those crowns, all of that. That's etheric energy. That's them sucking energy out of the air. That's what the crowns and the fezzes and the turbans and all that was. Like the turbans, if it's not cotton, it should be linen. People don't know that we wrap the mummies in the linen. The linen is sacred because the linen is naturally healing. In hospitals, all of the bedding used to be linen. After the war, they shut all of that down because too many people was getting better. Because you could lay on linen sheets and feel bad, and in an hour get up and feel great. Because the linen is a naturally healing occurrence. So when you had all of this on, let's say we was in battle, we fighting, the purer the linen, the quicker the healing. So you have Moors who has certain types of linen from certain places where they would get arrows and shit, take the shit out, take their turban on, wrap it up. 10 minutes later, it's healed. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the type of stuff we was dealing with, like high technology that they call primitive. You see what I'm saying? But primitive doesn't mean remedial or lower than. It means the prime, that from the prime derivative. That's us. So technology-wise, they never had no wins. So the only reason why they won was because a lot of us joined up with them. And then they backed their decoys against our real people. And then by the time we start coming back from these wars, they don't already allow these people to use their name and marry into their family, move into their house. But now they're being the butler. You see what I'm saying? Like Steven and Django, who was signing all the checks, but he's supposed to be the slave. Knew all the brandy was, but he's supposed to be the slave. Everybody asking him what to do, but he's supposed to be the slave. That's how they did it. And that's why the plantations, they were just taken over because those were old places that we would store the prisoners of war that tried to invade us. The ones from Africa, the continent of Africa, the Portuguese, the Belgians, the French, the Italians. Whenever we would bomb them out, take them over, shut them down, we put them on the reservation. The Siberians came, shut their invasion down. What do? Put them on reservations. They living in teepees, right? Wiki-ups. We living in cities. We ain't live like that. But then we had certain Moorish cultures, forest cultures, that were the ones who basically created a program to show them how to live off the land. So that's what I'm saying. Like we have a certain way of us being we, meaning melanated people born here in the Americas. We have and specifically mainland, we are the focus of the world because the world has always focused on us. We let them come over here, and the problem was we didn't treat them on the same level because they wasn't. And then two, when it got to a certain point, it started sleeping with them, right? Because again, they are cousins. Just like right now, you in California, if your cousin from Panama come to your crib, he Panamanian, but that's still your cousin. You understand? Right. But how he live in Panama don't mean just he can live like that in your crib. You start beefing about it, y'all go to war about it, he get the white decoys to help him get you up out of there. He then let the white decoys rent your property, and then he get money off of them and get money off of you as because he had now sold you down the river. See what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how it happened. We wasn't defeated by no white people. No 3 ships came and wiped out 100 million people. That's insane. No white Caucasian people came here and made no deal with no Indians. That didn't happen. Read the history. He made the deal. The people they called Indians called themselves Moors. So they were this, and they looked similar to the people who was coming. All of these pictures we seen with these white people and shaking hands with Indian, all of that is what they call artistic license or romanticized imagery. It's not real. They just made that stuff up and got us to go along with it because people look like us co-signed it because they are against God, and their goal, again, the quickest way to fight and win their war is to destroy the minds of the children, sacrifice the children, because that's closest to the essence. They the closest to it, and they are the physical representation of the future. So they're the physical representation of the future, the physical representation of God, the physical representation of all that is good, all that is evil, all that is pure, all in one. And they are automatically provided for by the heavenly host. So what better target would the enemy have but to do things to them? And that's what they're doing. So it's not because they're breeding these demons to do these things to these children, because that is the true goal. The sacrifice, the torturing, the human, those are just incidental things. The goal is to hurt the heart of God, because whether you and I believe in the ultimate creator or not, they do. So much so that they are in a perpetual war with it. So think about the mentality of somebody who's living like that. They don't see the world the way that you and I do. Their every day that they wake up is they have to do something to spit or smite God. This is the enemy.
As I put up this picture here, Clan of the Cave Bear.
Yes, they have taken over the lodge. These are the ones who secretly are taking the lodges and trying to subvert what initially the Moors intended to civilize their children and get modern men today to give up their essence to making deals with these entities that require this in order to continue their non-physical war with it. Because they were physical. That's why we still see them today. When you look in the sky and you see Saturn and you see Jupiter, those are the celestial bodies that they gave up to come down here and become physical and engage in bullshit that thwarted man to the point that everything had to be destroyed. And then they couldn't go back. So now they exist as non-corporeal entities that people with Ouija boards and CERN machines and blood sacrifices and shit is trying to tap into to help them have power to fight against the all in all.
Would you say that what the AI and computers are doing?
That's what we really dealing with, and nobody want to accept that.
Do you feel that that's what AI?
That's why you can't get together with your own people right now, because half of your people is down with this agenda. Why do you think Lizzo gave $500,000 to Planned Parenthood? Planned Parenthood is the biggest Moloch worshiping corporation the world has ever seen. It's dedicated to Moloch. It's dedicated to it. You understand? So all of these people, and remember who set up Planned Parenthood? Margaret Sanger. Who was that? The ultimate white occultist devil rapist.
Wow. Can you explain what the Moors
eugenicist?
Can you explain,
right?
As we have this picture right here, Clan of the Cave
The
Bear.
name of Planned Parenthood was the Negro Project. She said we have to sterilize as many of them as possible if we are to survive. These are people who were made in incubators and came out of bogs in the caves and the swamps, bro. Like, they literally created this thing. They show you. They got books on this stuff. Our people, though, our people are still so benevolent in our ignorance that our people would still rather kill each other than the enemy that's striving to kill them every day. Think about that, bro. Like, we have to accept we may not see the whole thing in our lifetime. However, our lifetime is not gauged by years. It's gauged by millennium. And when you set your sight on the task, which is what we've been given, to make sure that this message shall not be driven from the earth, we are maintaining a place for all of them to eventually be redeemed by all the things that we have said no to instead of saying yes.
Can
you understand what I'm saying, God?
Can you explain more in detail how some of the Moors, when they went into the caves amongst these people, right here, if you look at the picture?
Yes.
And we started teaching them and gave them fire.
Okay.
And gave them the alphabet.
Yes.
They were, and so is it basically that we gave them, by what people call Allah, our God, it was giving them a reality to exist in a higher realm. And the only way that they can exist in
yes,
what we call man or humanity, even though for me we're extraterrestrials, the only way they can exist is the words that we give them, which are worlds. So if we separate from them, the only world they'll be able to stay in is what is now.
You are responsible for what you create. You understand? You are responsible for that which you create, whether you maintain the creation or not. So we, first in time, first in line. We came from a lofty estate and maintained it in all of the realms simultaneously. But the more we became discontented with one another, a crack is open, and now a group decides that they want to rule things and create beings in their own image, how they see they should be. But they have to use the base material of what's already there. So they start to upgrade the Wendigos, or the whatever you want to call them, right? And so through generationally, a lot of people wasn't with that. We weren't with it. And so that caused wars, because the people who are doing this, the scientists that are experimenting and doing these things, they are doing this because they have set their ego above the collective understanding of the paradise that we all are experiencing now. They want to create an imperfection within that to give themselves the power to have dominion, to create a pocket reality where that dominion can act as the real dominion. You understand? And so they then create entities to help facilitate that dominion, while at the same time using them to fight against those who are not with that. So in the ancient time, these types of people referred to as the Harashef. And these Harashef were horrible. they were the ones dealing with creating the centaurs and all this other type of stuff. They're absolutely horrible beings, and these are melanated people.
And this is the island of Dr. Moreau. You see the picture we have up?
See?
So
this is exactly what the type of stuff I'm talking about. They dealing with all this type of stuff, and these Harris chefs got to the point where they had to get shut down globally. So globally, we all got together again and shut these people and things down to the point that by the time that Amenhotep II came into being, he had the Harris chef presence erased and stricken from all historical record. So nobody could even think about being like these people again. But some of them escaped. Where did they go? They went up into Peloponnesia, which we now today call the Aegean Sea and all of that, right? And then they set up a temple in the name of Hera, right? Remember, this is the Hera chef. They get shut down. They create a new cult now. But instead of it being a male under Hera chef, now it's the female. They're doing it under Hera, right? Then they make sure that Hera has another baby with their god Zeus, who then becomes who? Heracles, right? And then Heracles has to do the 11 to 12 labors. One of those labors is he has to go to hell and rescue the children and have sex with them. See what I'm saying? So this is them bringing the whole thing back into existence. Now we got to start sacrificing. Same thing with the Moabites, like we're Moors. So we descend from the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Hittites, the Amalekites, the Elamites, and some other ites, right? But the reason why the Amalekites, the Elamites, the Moabites, the Canaanites, all these people, even though they had high civilization coming from ancient Canaan, right? The reason why they were cursed was because they married within themselves. See what I'm saying? So they started to create the bloodline of incestuousness, which then started to breed the insanity in the lines of the clans of those people. That's why the Israelites separated themselves from all of them. And they were now seen as the Gentiles, right? These Gentiles, aka gentlemen, right? They exist in a peripheral view. So the Israelites, the 12 tribes, who are now doing their own genetic mixing, they are now against their other side of their clan, right? Who are keeping their genetics within their own people. So it get to a point where they get to the war. These wars keep going until the birth of Ruth. Ruth, the Moabitess, through her divinity and her devotion to Boaz, to get him to see the right way, she, in her practice and who she was, became the vessel by which Yeshua would then come. If you into the stories and all of that. So what that says is we then were brought back into the covenant and then kept the covenant from that point on. Whereas the so-called Israelites and the rest of them, they started falling back into the paganism, into the Hereshef stuff, into the golden calf, Baal worship shit. And we've been warring against each other to this day.
To the right.
And it's every day.
To the right, I have the movie Encino Man. Is this what we're dealing with when it comes to... Can you explain to the viewers what they're looking at, how they always show us? Like, I was at the gym the other day, and when we go to the sauna, when the Europeans take off their shirt, it's like they're all hairy. And it, to me, it's a sign that we're a different species. Can you explain possibly a little more about the genetic experiment and that parasite that was attached to them? Because
parasite,
because it seems as if earlier I had spoke before we went live, is that the European Moors who went into the caves to get them got bit by the vampires or the parasite, and then took that parasite.
That's the worm. That's the vampire.
And that's why the European Moors came over here tripping, because they were the ones bit by the parasite, and they were in cold climates compared to us in warmer climates. But can you go further into detail about the parasite? Because basically what I wanted to for y'all watching, I wanted to link this up with Stargate SG-1. In Stargate SG-1, it's not just the Greys and other humanoid gods or system lords that they're getting at. They're getting at the parasite, and they're saying that the parasite is an advanced civilization that goes around the galaxy in hosts, and the captive jars in Egypt are actually possibly in the show, they say, have the parasite. And so when we talk about the sarcophagus, these mummies, a lot of those mummies are perfectly preserved. The European or the Trogs, they know when they open up the sarcophagus and the air hits, the body in there turns to old. So clearly we had our ancestors and ourselves put in these sarcophaguses and preconditioned for a reason. And then also in the show, the sarcophagus in the movie Stargate, the pharaoh was able to go into the sarcophagus and heal themselves. So clearly the sarcophaguses are advanced cryo chambers. So can you go into detail?
Well, yeah, it's
more
that, and like I said, it's the rituals where the operating systems are the iOS on how the energy is distributed. So when they do the ritual is just to build up the kinetic and the adrenochrome and the plasmospheric energy that allows the entity that is non-physical to bond to. You understand? So they're not doing this just to do it. They're doing it to receive some sort of etheric power. The problem is you don't know who it is that you're channeling just because you're calling them, because you're calling into an element that doesn't exist in the concept of me versus you. You're calling energy from something that's almost like a whirlpool. So you're calling for a whirlpool to come down in the form of an ice cube. You know what I'm saying? And then you want to take the ice cube and act like the ice cube is the whirlpool when it's not. It's just a piece of it, but you don't know what piece that it is. It could just be saying that it's the grandmother, or it's Aseer, or it's whatever the ritual is said to, just for you to help incarnate it. So now it has a place to exist. You see what I'm saying? That's why the old ones, it would take years sometimes to prepare a place for a type of ritual portals, especially after everything got destroyed, to be able to incarnate or transliterate somebody from one place to another. But the worms, the parasites, those are the entities that exist or have existed in the microscopic realm that can be harnessed with that have intelligences. And these intelligences are usually evil because they are feeding off of you. So a parasite can get so in bed or have so many that it can start thinking for you. There's a type of animal in which the parasite takes over its body. And it takes over its body to the point that the animal then goes and kills itself. And then when it kills itself, the parasite that's in it, when it's open, another animal comes, eats the parasite, and the cycle starts all over in another organism. So these things are malevolent. So the vril worm or the trichina worm, right, that they was putting into those females, right, the ones that was doing that were the descendants of these necromancers and these types of people who were trying to, again, keep this war going against the Most High. You understand? And by using and just bringing down the Moors of that day and getting them corrupted, they were then able to basically take over those Moors, right? When they take those Moors over, those Moors now infected with this understanding, they then go and then become people like Vlad Tepes, okay? Or
Dracula.
Dracula, Vlad Tepes, who set all of that up, and Wallachia. And there was so many of those at one point that the Moors basically had to kill so many of them that the only way for them to not be extinct was for them to basically, again, marry back into the family. So the way that they wound up doing it was agreeing to become, let's say, Christians on the outset, right? But behind the scenes, they would still worship and do all of the foul shit they was doing. This group of royals became known as the Societas Draconius. The Societas Draconius was established as a royal as a royal house or a royal parliament of these families, these infected, bloodletting families that were still going to continue what they were doing along the lines that they had been doing. And so they became known as the Lords of Drakkenberg. These Drakkenberg, Societas Draconis Moors, in their dominions, they had the right, because this was their divine right, religious right, they had the right to continue the practices on anybody who they had jurisdiction over.
Is that what we're looking at right
here
with the Yucatan Peninsula?
Yes.
Because I had a question: is Yucatan associated with Yaqub's Peninsula, possibly the big-headed scientists, and were they practicing bloodletting?
And Yaqub, Jacob, But this Societas Draconis I'm talking about, they established in Transylvania. But Transylvania that I'm talking about is the real Transylvania that's in North Carolina. That's where it started, and moved it over to Europa. This is also referred, when they talk to you about the Carolingian dynasty, the Carols, the Salem, same thing. These were the people who are now low-key becoming a part of the Societas Draconis. People like Benjamin Franklin and all of that. And then eventually that turns into the Illuminati. You see what I'm saying? Then that eventually turns into this. But it's the same thing, I'm telling you.
They were eating children. They said Thomas Jefferson was a vampire.
Yes. That's why they found all them babies up under Ben Franklin's house.
Yeah, and Benjamin Franklin was eating humans and rats, and even the lady who Marie Laveau was going at war with the New Orleans was eating people.
Because this was the royal, this was the nobilities going against these were the imperial nobilities that were now waning in power, and now the new modern Luciferian Freemasonry influenced people are now doing the do. So after the close of everything gets destroyed. They start to repurpose everything, take over the areas that's been cleaned out, and they start to create what they call concentration centers. These concentration centers took the form of, they repurposed the Moorish castles and buildings and stuff that was there, repurposed them and turned them into movie houses. But each one of these movie houses was referred to as an ISIS theater. And these ISIS theaters were run by the Freemasons in those areas. And those Freemasons who were down with that.
What's up with the
all over the country?
The Egyptian Hollywood. They had the Egyptian theater. It's in Hollywood, and it's a real
the Babylon Wall. The wall of Babylon is there.
I have a book, what I'm saying Brother Duke of Teers, Hollywood. I have a book. It shows Hollywood decked out like ancient Babylon, Sumeria. They said the first film that they did.
They got the wall.
Destroyed it.
Type in the wall of Babylon. Hollywood Central is called Babylon County.
Wow. It literally had buildings and everything.
Ancient Egypt was called Babylon. Ancient Egypt and Babylon was the same place at one point in history.
Modern day Hollywood.
And we know that because
the city of fallen angels, fallen extraterrestrials, and the lizard cities underneath Hollywood.
Yeah. That's what. After Queen Khalifa and them got shut down, they was able to access all of that. Queen Khalifa had the Caliphate had all of that in check. After they fell, that's when they was able to run Bram Shop in here. But that's how they did the worms. The worms was used to be able to get them to possess as many people as possible and then pass it on sexually. And then once they created the children from these unions, the children would naturally go and create more parasites. And then what happened was the mulatto children stopped having babies with melanated people. They would go and have babies with their mother's people, called Caucasoids, the ones coming out the cave. This one was all of the infections. And then boom, within a generation, your whole line now is Caucasian people. But it's still melanated dark Moors behind them, keeping them out front, making them do all of the work, right? Because now they've gone into the recesses. So when we talk about the Breakspears and the Braganzas and the Ambergolios and all of these papal families, the Medicis, all of these are Moors. All of them were in their initial, but they were the ones who sold their souls. And they were the ones and are the ones that worked with the talented 10th here in America in the late 1800s, 1700s to help put us all in the fake racial trick bag that we in right now. And now it's all coming out because, like I said, they had new ways now of distributing the worm. So the new way, outside of the sexual way, is to get the worm and put it in the left eye. And then what it does is it goes in the left eye. Then to keep it there, they punch you in the eye. That's when you see them with the black eye. They punch you in the eye at least 6 times to keep it activated. And then what happens is it goes further back into the retina and grabs around the base of here. And it starts to accentuate the reptilian section of the brain. So now the reptilian, the highest aspect of your reptilian brain. So this whole thing is your brain, but it only goes to the reptilian section. And then it increases the reptilian section while putting the real you to sleep. Now it's thinking from the highest cortex of the highest aspect of the reptilian section of the brain. So it's really at the bottom, but now your whole brain is being filtered through this reptilian section. That's when now they can activate the genes, the gene decoding stuff to then put things in your DNA to start making your eyes change and all the other stuff that we see them doing.
Is that why they're trying to get the worms out of Antarctica as well, and the glacier worms and things of that nature?
Yeah.
Because
the worms is the intelligence.
There you go. Because even in SG-1, they said that they're a civilization, and that's who we're at war with. So,
in Men in Black, who was the people? Who was the dudes? The worms, right?
Right.
The worms, just like
in the movie Faculty. Remember Faculty?
In Faculty, it was the worms.
Yes,
it was the worms. Just like in the movie Invasion with Nicole Kidman. It was the worms coming from space, getting on everybody's face. Remember? It's always the worms. Just like in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, they showed us the Cabbage Patch Kids, people being born out of the Cabbage Patches. Remember?
I tell people about the Cabbage Patch and Lana.
Go back and watch the real Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the one with Donald Sutherland. Go back and look at that one. They find the people being born out of pods. Where you think that's the Cabbage Patch shit? That's the human incubator shit. These people, that's why these people don't have no recollection. The baby boomers, a lot of them don't have a recollection of what their ancestors was before the 1930s.
So even our people are NPCs and clones as well.
Yeah.
And so also when I'm vibrating high, I remember in college, I felt like that Men in Black taser is like they flash it all the time on people. Is there a vast memory wipe as well going on with some type of technology? Like, for instance,
that's what the fluoride does. The fluoride breaks down your ability to focus on anything more than like 15 seconds, unless you, especially if you're in this newer generation. Our generation, we was whipped to sit still. So we developed a certain callous to that. These new kids that's born, they don't have no real filter unless it's us in their life. So they just take everything as if it's real, when nothing that they're seeing is real. Back then, when we was coming up, we thought everything was real when it was the opposite. Now we know everything is fake. So now what happens is vibrationally, they got to go with what's happening internally. So what they want to do, again, attack the children, right? By getting the children to sully themselves, sexualize themselves, destroy their future by receiving STDs and things like that. So that way they become the self-fulfilling prophecy. They're trying to destiny swap us. Their time is already over. They've already lost. They've lost. Okay? We have won. We've already won. We just have to get to that place in the future where that happens. So what they're doing is they're stretching out the clock. they're using things like CERN, the Mandela effect. They're using all these
here
tricks
you go.
to make it seem like that it's longer than what it is.
I just found out that Edison had a spirit telephone. My past episode, we were talking about spiritual technology, and you were speaking on tapping into Ouija boards and things of that
and
nature.
all of that. Yeah, that's what they was doing. That's what they got to do. But we didn't have to do that. All we got to do is get to a quiet place within our mind's eye and allow ourselves to hear. And we will know exactly what to do. That's that little voice. That's your higher self. That's what you would perceive as the supreme all in all. That's it. Because it's you. The problem is you don't think you're you. You think you're separate from it. So in that separation, you're vulnerable. Because the more people tell you what you aren't, the more you're supposed to enforce what you are. Right? Like we're Moroccans, not Moroccans. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to go into something thinking that it's not going to work for me. I am going to acknowledge a pattern recognition. That's different. But if I go into it saying it's not going to happen, guess what? It's not going to happen because I said so, not the environment. If I went into it saying, no, regardless to what happened, I'm going to get it and I'm going to come out on top. You know what happens? You go get it and you come out on top.
That's
because
what
it's not you
all the time.
It's not you. It's not even me. It's what we represent. What we represent is the fact that the history and reality that they have sought to bury is still here and is so prevalent that it now has become mainstream. Everything that we have been saying from the time people was telling us we had knowledge to the time we started talking all of this stuff, everybody been using the word conspiracy theory against us. But every conspiracy theory that we have ever really talked about has come to be what? True. They've all come to be true. The Hitler being alive after Argentina, the 9/11 Mossad connection, the fluoride in the water, the Astra team making everybody gay in the water, everything that we've ever, the Kennedy assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, the Malcolm, everything that we have ever said was the opposite of what they said turned out to be true. To the point that we done found the actual CIA memo, CIA document 1035-960, in which they say that they're going to use the word conspiracy theory as a means to throw people off from further investigation into the Warren Commission report on the Kennedy assassination. And yet you still got people out here using these words like they mean something against people like us that are the only ones who have been saying the same thing since before the internet. So now here we are. We at the edge of the apocalypse. All their lies been exposed. The Moors are still here. All the Indians about to get deported. You know what I'm saying? Like if we just sit still, like the prophet said, it's all gonna come back to us. We just gotta learn to love each other instead of hate, and we gotta learn to separate ourselves from those idol worshippers amongst us that are willing to sacrifice the children in the enemy's war against the future, who are again our children. So until Black women, Black men get to understanding that you are the Negro project that Margaret Sanger set up, and those of us that have had to go through that abortion and things like that in the past, we have to reconcile with our participation in that for whatever the circumstance. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we are now locked into this system that doesn't need to exist, that only is really detrimental to us. Nobody's getting them as much as our women. So we have to ask ourselves or ask our women why. And if the answer is something material, then it's not a real answer. What we're really dealing with is a form of mind control, mass hypnosis, and spell casting in the form
Lana
of
has
propaganda.
a question for you.
Hey, Aseer, I don't like cutting y'all knowledge because you
No
just been
problem.
really, yeah. So you guys mentioned something earlier about the goddess, the divine feminine when it comes to the headdress and what we wear in our hair and the jewelry and the clothing that we wear, how we were wearing that before. What would you suggest? Because a lot of our young goddesses are running around here wearing weaves and lashes, and I mean it's ridiculous. Like I remember back in the day, you wear it once in a blue moon if you were going somewhere, but not every day,
Not
all day.
every
Like that's
day.
your costume.
I
And
know.
so when I do my research when it comes to the body, because it's important that we understand and study the body, the nervous system is one of the most important systems. And so that to me as a goddess, I'm connected to the ethers. That's where I get this knowledge from.
That's
I
right.
hear you. I hear both of you. You spit knowledge, right?
Thank you.
I already knew it because the ancestors feed all of this information to me as a goddess.
That's
So
right.
what would you suggest to us? And shout out to your wife, Selena.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you,
straight
sis.
up love.
Thank you.
So what do you suggest to us goddesses and priestesses and what we should do from this point forward so we don't miss out on any important information from our ancestors, especially during these times? What would you suggest that we do to maintain?
In my humble opinion, I feel as a father of a daughter, you know what I mean, who is basically grown now, you know, and being a son of a mother, you know, I have a perspective when it comes to that, and then being a husband, you know, and I think that the main thing is your greatest power as a female is your soft power. A woman, right? Or femininity soothes the savage beast. So you could be like, I could be in a fight with a dude outside, right? And then come home and then still be hyped. And then my woman comes and actually calms me down to the point, you see what I'm saying? That I don't feel threatened anymore. You understand? Only a real female can bring that out of a man. But that doesn't come from that same female screaming, what happened? What happened? Who did this? You see what I'm saying? Like there's a communication element that has been taken from the woman by other women due to them being hurt. So I think one of the main things women can do to start is, one, stop wearing any type of mixed fabric. Stop putting anything on your body that is not natural or you did not create yourself. If you could do those two things just to start, you would add years to your life. Embrace your own identity outside of the created identity that is out there for you. Because for the past 80, 60 years, they've been using the original woman almost as a sub-agent of the government, right? An open sub-agent of the government. And whatever test thing they want to do to the male and the children, they use her because they allowed her to come amongst them to get a part of to separate her from us. You see? So in the woman realizing that, what you have to understand is that they want to use you to bring about a new type of being on the earth, one that is totally subject to whatever their whim is. And the only way they can do that is by getting you to co-sign their every whim. You see what I'm saying? So if they can get you to go along with the idea that the more crass you are, the more sexy you are, or the more whatever you are, and not telling you that what you are is enough, then whoever's saying that to you is trying to mentally control you. Another thing that we can do, I think females can do, or women can do better, is to allow themselves the time to think about what it is they really want for themselves. Now, when I say that, it might sound simple, but it's not, because as a female, I can only imagine what it's like to be constantly bombarded with somebody telling you everything about yourself is wrong. See, we as men, we've been getting it so long that roll right off of me. Anytime I hear, oh, black men ain't this, that roll right off me. I've been hearing that from when I was growing up in a house full of women talking crap about men, talking crap about women. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I already understood all of that. Some of us, though, as men, never knew how to reconcile that. And so they internalized all of that, and then turn them into men hating women, or gay, or gay adjacent, or whatever it is that comes from that. Where really, if a female, regardless to what your mother's telling you, your friend telling you, your email telling you, your social telling you, what are you telling you about yourself? Because men, when it comes to peer pressure, if it get too much and I'm a man, I'm going to challenge you about it. I'm not going to let you blackmail me or push me into the corner where I just got to submit to what you want to do. No, as a man, I'm going to fight that. But I've seen women literally wear down their friend, wear this girl down to the point now she ain't, you know what I mean? And to talk her out of a relationship, talk her out of a job, talk all of this, whatever, and then come to find out they're not even friends no more. So this is what I mean. Men, we will sacrifice our happiness for our relationship because things like honesty, loyalty, chivalry, making my word bond, these types of things are supposed to mean something to us. So we held accountable for it all, right? Females, women, you're not held to that level of accountability, because as a woman, you always will have the luxury of indecisiveness. And this is not to say that all women can't make up their mind. No, what I'm saying is you have, because you're a female, because of your position in the hierarchy, you have the luxury of changing your mind at a moment's notice. And me, as a man, regardless of how I feel about it, it's my job to oblige you. You understand? That's how it's supposed to work. Now, that doesn't mean that you just be out here willy-nilly changing my everything, but it is to say that we are held to different standards for a reason. And when you try to now have my standards applied to you and your standards applied to me, we're only going to have chaos. It's only going to be chaos. And the only person who can stop that is the person who actually is the custodian of the family. And that's the mother. Because she is the gateway by which we all come in here. But she cannot be God by herself. You understand? You cannot do it by yourself, sis. Don't fall into the do it alone, independent woman, strong woman type of thing. That's to isolate you. That's to make you outside of anybody coming to your rescue. So that way you're out on an island and you have to depend on the kindness of strangers. And these strangers ain't kind to y'all. They have an agenda for you. They want to use you to bring about the new mutant race on the planet. So every time you see a sister talking about, I had to get IVF, I had to get my eggs freezed, I had to go get this. All of these females opening themselves up to surgeries, all of the needless surgeries that lead to years of complications, all to look good for a couple of minutes on the phone. All of that is mental illness. So females, and males, we have to start doing mental health checks for ourselves. Am I on the computer too long? Am I doing this too much? Am I too involved in what this person thinks?
Balance.
Think about it. This is a test. This is the test not you, but this is a test anybody can do to see how caught up you are on something. Next time you're on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or any of those types of things, and you scrolling and you see something and it makes you mad, and you go to start scrolling and you go to start typing about it or commenting on it. If that's what you got to do, type in, comment on it, right? And then erase it. Or catch yourself the next time you do it, and then look at what it is, and then ask yourself why this thing triggered me like this. And then once you do that and you really see yourself as you are, you'll see that you are engaging emotionally in things that aren't even real. The person you're watching that engage you is probably an AI. It's not even a real person. But they want to engage you so much because your attention is money. And they've conned women into believing that attention equates success. So the more attention I get, the more successful I am. But it's the exact opposite. Because people with real money, you don't know them. You've never heard of them. you don't see them, right? But people who are supposed to have money, you see these people all the time. That's what I'm saying. Let's stop the idol worship. One of the biggest idols on this planet that females worship is Beyonce. Let's just use her as an example. To the point, this demon got its own church where women worship this thing. But this thing, right, doesn't even like women. Number one, it don't like black women because it's transitioned into a white woman, right? And there's a senator that came out and said that she actually is really Italian, and her name is Angela Bassano or some shit. Or I think that's the wrong name, but he basically said all that to say. I say all that to say is every of these people that these women have put on a pedestal to be exactly what they feel they should be. And these women have patterned their lives after this because of songs. So her song said me, myself, and I. So that means I got to leave this nigga. But guess what? She ain't leave Jay-Z. He done everything to her. She ain't going nowhere. Yeah. But when it comes to you, what you got left? You just got the song and the video. Meanwhile, she living her life with this man who is not only controlling her, destroying the world, literally destroying the world. And she is the only reason why he ain't go down is because of her. But that don't mean she innocent. It means that she has allowed herself to be the vessel for this thing. So what I'm saying, sisters, is don't pattern yourself after somebody like that just because you think she worship Ifa, just because you associate with Oshun, just because you think that she venerates and does all of this with the ancestors. No, she don't. She goes to Diddy parties. She worships the devil. You understand? And that's her right. It's her right to do that. And you should support her right to do that, but not at the expense of your soul and the soul of your people. Blavatsky and them said that the new religion and the new world governments would be led by music and musicians. Why you think these musicians is always in front of us with these things? Why you think whenever they want to move our attention into something, they use a musician? Because the musicians are supposed to be the ones blaring the trumpets, bringing the walls of Jericho down, so that way we can go into the hereafter. But instead, these niggas want to do white parties. They want to do coke off of prostitutes. You understand? They have no regard for their power. And they know that they're doing this. So at some point, we who know better got to do better and stop engaging these people. Let them influence whom they influence. And the less we pay attention to them, the better it's going to be. The worst thing you as a melanated woman could do right now is to not give a damn about what any black man think, black woman think, white man think, yellow man think, Indian man think. The best thing you could do right now as a female is to just think for yourself. But think free of it all. Meaning free of the eyelashes, free of the nails, free of the weave, free of the sew-in, free of all of the stuff that stops you from experiencing life. 56% of so-called black women are morbidly obese right now. That is different than any other group on earth. On earth right now. That's besides black males. Black males still fall within the realm of helping. Black women are on a case study in which in another 5 to 6 years, they will be 75% obese. You know what that means?
Yeah.
That's death for all of us, bro.
Yeah.
For all of us. We all gonna die. Because y'all won't stop eating and y'all won't stop
glorifying
your
it.
hair that stop you from going and swimming, from just having water on your crown. Like, you need that stuff. We need it.
Would you say obesity has to do with more parasites? So,
Yes.
So the parasites that are in
but
us.
the parasites is not just coming from the food.
Okay.
It's coming from the dead hair.
Mm-hmm.
They have parasites in the hair. I watched them. They shave the hair off the crying young girls. Then they take the hair, then they put it into the sewer. The sewer. Then take it out the sewer and strain it. Wash it. That's just the human hair. They got another thing where they just use plastic and they burn the plastic and they bring it up and up and up and then eventually make it into a weave. And this is what you're putting in your hair. So you're sewing this into your head. So the parasites is coming from the food. They're coming from the hair. They're coming from the makeup. They're coming from the lipstick. They're coming from the glue on the nails. They're coming from the polyester, because you're not even wearing real fabrics. So you're wearing forever chemicals. You're literally wearing plastic in your private parts that breathes. So now you're just encased in things. So you don't feel like doing nothing. You don't feel like working out. You don't feel like eating healthy. You don't feel like going into the sun. You don't want to get your hair wet. You don't want to lay down because you don't want the thing to mess up. So what does this do? You've put yourself on a hamster wheel of what you can't do to live. So everything that you do, if you look at what they're doing to the female, they're making it so she doesn't even touch herself. Your nails are so long, you can't touch your face. Your BBL is so big, you can't reach around and wash yourself. So you're decaying. You got maggots coming out of you. Oh. You understand? You have the glue in your head. So now when you sweat, you're sweating glue all in your face, all into your pores. Now your skin bad, right? Then you're eating pork. Then you're eating McDonald's, which is human meat. Then you're eating Then you're going to get your nails done. They sitting there with masks on. You sitting there like this. They're killing you. They're using luxury to kill you, sisters. I'm sorry. They're doing it to us too. However, we as men, there's always a subtle level of violence when it comes to us. So you can't really pressure us to do certain stuff if we don't want to do it. You know what I mean? So if that dude got a perm on, he may have been pressured into it, but he has chosen to do that. You understand? You as a female, you are being manipulated into this. To the point where every famous black woman now is a white woman. Look at Tammy Roman. Look at Beyonce. Look at Sierra. Look at Mary J. Look at all of them. They all white women now. But nobody's saying nothing. It's just me. I'm the only one saying this. And these are the women talk about black pride and what they doing for sisters and all this other type of shit.
Sending mixed messages.
It's crazy. It's driving people. It's driving
insane.
People insane. That's what I'm saying. It's a agreed upon insanity. And those of us that have woken up from it or were never infected with it, who have been trying to tell everybody about it, are always ostracized because they've created words to stop you from taking things like this seriously. Words like, oh, he hating. Don't listen to him, girl. He ain't even know what he talking about. He broke. He don't know what he need. Look, he probably gay. He don't think, you understand? All of these things are just out there that you could just pull down and say, okay, this is why I'm not going to listen to this. This is why I'm not going to listen to this. This is why I'm not going to listen to this, right? And then that's it. Because you as a female, you have something that me as a male don't have. You have the ability to create a world around you that only fits your worldview. And you can live in that world. You understand? And bring into that world who and what you want. Meaning that you have the ability to dictate the experiences that you have. I don't have that luxury. Whatever experience I have, I gotta have it. An experience for you, you could choose. Do I wear this outfit and get this type of attention, or do I wear this and get no attention? You see what I'm saying? Different. I don't have that ability. Do I wear this and have all of these niggas crashing their cars when they see me, or do I do it like this and, you know, bring out a certain type of person who's interested in me? That's a superpower.
Magic.
We can't do that. I can't do that. When I step out at 5'7", that's it. I'm 5'7", that's it. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't put on lifts, and I could do all that, but if I do that and you find out I'm wearing lifts, what that say about me?
Artist formerly known as.
I'm done. She's like, oh girl, he was wearing lifts. Like, right? But if I'm confident in myself at 5'7", if I know who I am and all of that, I don't care how tall I am or what you think about my height. Now, guess what? I'm attractive. You see?
Because you love yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing for the sisters. It's the same thing. Men would give more of a damn now if you told them no. I don't want your money. I don't want your car. I don't need you to pick me up. I don't want you to do that. All I need from you is to know what type of person you are. What type of conversation can you have with me? What can you teach me? If a female start asking niggas questions like that, you know what's gonna happen? You know what he gonna do? If he's sitting like this, you say that, you know what he gonna do? He gonna sit up. He gonna start fixing himself. He gonna get his pants straight. He gonna pull his pants up, because ain't nobody ever talked to him like that before, because nobody ever asked him or gave him the understanding that how he is treating you is unacceptable. Because if you accept it, he'll do it. But if you don't, he won't. So like my grandmother say, monkey know which tree to climb. So if you are the type of dude and you know you out here playing and you come across a good girl, a good woman, there's a part of you as a man. Jason, you could attest to this. We probably all have been in a situation. It get to the point where you as a man, you got to make the choice. That's when our choices come in. Am I the type of dude who could be with this girl and hold it down with her for as long as I can with her? Or, even though I may not be ready. You see what I'm saying? Or, you ask yourself this: am I the type of dude, knowing who this girl is, knowing how I feel about her, am I going to be the type of dude that's going to be cool seeing her with somebody else? See what I'm saying? That's when you know you engaged and you have you like the female. And what females have done is that they've taken that from men by showing it all at once. We're overloaded. It's overloaded. It's too much.
It's boring now.
Breasts. It's just too much. It's too many breasts. It's too many behinds. It's too many. It's too much. It's
too much for me.
Yeah.
And
it's too much. And what has happened? It has stopped men from approaching women. You see? That's how you know all that stuff they've been telling us over the years about men. All men want is sex. Men just want sex. Men just want this. This proves that that's the opposite. Because now that women are throwing the sex at the men, what are the men doing? They being virgins now. They saying no. They don't want to have illicit sex. They traveling out the country to find a wife. Think about you understand what I'm saying? So somewhere along the line, the relationship has switched, and now again, if you are trying to play my role, I'm trying to play your role, the whole movie gonna be whack.
Yep.
You gotta be the man, I gotta be the woman, so he could be or she could be the child. And then we can decide everything else. Other than that, the more artificial you act and then you want something real, the more something really artificial is gonna come into your life and just destroy it. Because again, they see each one of you, original woman, as their key to controlling all of the rest of us. So it's you, me, the child, right? So now they have the original woman thinking that she is an indicative species unto herself. That's why all of the TV shows you watch now, the so-called mulatto type black woman, she is the one always in charge, or it's a darker skinned woman, but she's married to a white man, or if she is married to a black man, he's a simp, he's a cuck dude, right? Or the original woman who's in charge, she's with a good man and all of that, but she wants to be with this girl now, or she wants to be with this other dude now, because all of female romance culture is based on them cheating. Every movie that you have watched with female romance, the story is this. The girl is there. She's kind of quirky. She's good, but she's kind of unsure about herself. She's going to marry this dude who really likes her, but he's a little bit too extra masculine. So she meets this other dude. He don't really have enough money, but he treats her better than the guy that's going to give her everything. So she needs to decide how she's going to be able to reconcile this with this guy and then eventually wind up with this guy, but then still wind up having money. That's Titanic. That's The Notebook. That's The English Patient. That's every TV show you've ever seen. But guess what? Here's the hypocrisy. Women hate being cheated on. So your whole thing is about cheating, but then if it happens to you, it's a problem. So what does this do? This trains the female to believe the guy with money is cool, but if he's too much of a man, he's a problem. So let me get with the guy with less options, right? And help bring him up. But if he doesn't come up, then I'll always have an out, because I can always say you weren't the man that you said you were going to be. So you see, there's never accountability. So when you walk through life constantly thinking that everything you do, that you're the prize to everything, you're going to crash, because pride comes before the fall. That's why Pride Month is in June, before September. You see what I'm saying? All of this is scripted. So with the female, that's if you could just do basic stuff like that, hang up the phone sometimes. Don't tell other females, your so-called friends, about your personal relationship. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
Don't be secretive, but don't be overly embellishing either, because they're going to use it against you. Because most females today don't want a man like yours. They want your man. You understand? See, me as a guy, I could see Jason with his girl and be like, yo, I want a girl like that. You know what I mean? A female see that same situation, say, no, I want him. Because females will superimpose themselves in a pseudo relationship with the dude, because they think that they can watch how she treats him to a certain point, and then they could do that better. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's also a superpower, because some females can do that. But in the long run, what does that say? It says that females aren't loyal. And what we as men almost crave more than love is respect, loyalty, and love.
Would you say music has a huge, because I'm a 70s baby, so we came up with R&B, that's all I heard.
Yeah, love.
And then, and then one day it was
bitches ain't shit.
I'm like, turn it off. So now you have it to where, my mom, our parents are married. We grew up seeing a mom and a dad in the house, even if it was a stepdaddy, you know what I mean? You had two parents in the household. Yes. So now that we're older, you see a lot more single adults in their 40s and 50s.
Now because they're going through their second childhood. They drunk the Kool-Aid. They think something better out there for them. Yeah. Ain't nothing better for you out there, especially not now.
That's
not
very
in this
true.
climate.
Not now. Everybody's under the knife. Everybody, I tell folks, you get under the knife, you're basically opening yourself up. You don't know what they're doing when you're under anesthesia. You don't know what they're inserting into your body. Next thing you know, you wake up, you got a bigger booty and your breast might be bigger or whatever you add on. But what did they insert in you?
Exactly. Now, and why is it now you don't smell good all the time? Why is it now you got things crawling out of you? I saw one the other day, they literally had maggots crawling out of this woman's behind. But what's ironic, the irony on these things are so crazy because it's ironic because these same people who will go and do that, they will go to this white man and they will say, cut me open, do all of this to me and all of that. But these same black people, they will come up with the money to do that. Them same black people, though, so-called black people, you go to them and say, you know what? I got a business where we could set up a this, and that, and we could do this. And I know you got the money to do that, but let's do this. Hell no. No, they won't do it. They would rather go get cut open and get stuff put in them that is going to rot them from the inside instead of doing something that could actually help them and their community for the rest of their life. Why? Because this is hell. This is hell. This is what hell literally is. Hell is having knowledge and power, right? To be able to change everything, but the paradox, but to have knowledge without the power to change everything. That's where we are. So we live in a paradox. So it's paradoxical. It's not supposed to happen. But we exist in a pseudo reality with things that never used to have substance now do. So at one point, it would be unfathomable for you to see somebody smack somebody's mother on TV. Now you see that shit every day. It would be unfathomable to see a black man out here just wailing on a black woman, beating her, and all. Now you see it every day. It would be unfathomable for you to see a black woman, so-called black woman, with no knowledge of self doing something, but we see it every day because, again, we are not in our proper person. Integration was the war tactic that got us to stop building up our own and then allow ourselves to be integrated into something that was totally alien to us. And once we said yes to that notion of evil, we say yes to it all. And ever since then, we've basically just been kind of picking and choosing how conscious we want to be until we get to a point where everybody going to have to get up under their own vine and fig tree and say, look, we the only people on earth that can't be deported nowhere. So what that say to me is I ain't no African, I ain't none of this stuff y'all saying I'm is. Because if these white people could have sent me somewhere, you think they wouldn't have? You think they wouldn't have? Yes, they would. But because they can't, that means that I've been here before them. So all I got to do is follow that old Moorish proverb that says, the more we withstand, the less they can endure. The more we stay on this type of vibration, the more we keeping people on this vibration alive and inspired enough to be able to give their energy to youth, to future, and to know that there's other people out there just like us that's on this vibe, and we will vibrationally reverberate it to the point that it's actually, this type of shit is actually keeping people alive in our vicinity. It's keeping people from offing themselves. It's keeping people from hating. It's keeping black women from hating men, keeping black men from hating women. This is all we can do at this stage. Because to think that we, in our little phase of it, could do it all would be just as egotistical as them. All we could do is what we can do in the allotted time that we can. Because you still got to live. You still got to have a life. You still got to experience happiness, joy, and all this other type of stuff while in the needs of, while in your pursuit or our pursuit of liberation. You're not supposed to give your whole life, like all of this communist, give your life to the revolution shit, all of that. Nah. We should just focus from the idea that we already won. And every day, say that to ourselves. Every day, function as if we already did. Function as if these people have already not only lost, but have taken a subordinate position to you. And watch vibrationally how that changes your interactions with people around you. I'm not saying that you should feel better or superior, but I will say that you are superior to a pedophile. You are superior to a negative witch. You are superior to a negative entity. You are superior to anybody in government right now. You are superior to anybody that's not working every day to be the best selves that they can be. You are. So if that means then that you are, so in that case, that means then you are the supreme being in any in any environment you go into. So you are always the one responsible for the outcome of your presence there. So you should never let somebody position you or place you or move you into a position where you don't have no way out. Because then that means that they won. And they can't win because they already lost, right?
Through that. Yep.
Yeah. So let's focus like that. They already lost.
Yep.
So if they're already lost, what are we worried about them for? What do you care if they bring South Africans over here? What do you? The white people, the white Americans gonna get rid of them before any of us, before they see us. White Americans gonna get rid of. Let me tell you something. Real talk. If it go down like that, these white nationalist American people, they're gonna do the ones doing all the work. Because that's how it happened last time. We used them to clean up and fight everybody, kill everybody, get killed. And then when they was all dead, we came out and cleaned up. And then buried them and then started to and then reset the world for another millennium. You know what I mean? Until we forgot again and then it went down. So it's always Rome, Carthage, Carthage, Rome, Rome, Carthage, Carthage, Rome. Right now, Rome going down, Carthage going up. So we just got to get to the point when Carthage go up again, we keep it up. We just keep it up by not doing any of the stuff we did before. And we'd be good.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'll end it also with this question. What do you feel about the spacecrafts? Because for me, I had a question with the King Tut Shrine. It looks like we were saying, Doctor Who, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the Osiris House. What would be the connection between this technology we see with the Moors, and we also see the Tartarian flag with Kanye saying, and we know that the Nazis have flying vehicles. What is the connection of you feel with the spaceships and this advanced technology? Is this our last frontier as far as Moors, and what we're going to is the future when we leave this lower realm? Is that where we're headed? Because we've already done that again. And where is that
already there? I think we're already there, projecting ourselves here in a holographic mechanism, like the black sun that they was talking about. Like I was telling you before, if you go to my YouTube, anybody can go and check the last 3 videos I did. It was basically all in response to what Kanye was talking about with the Heil Hitler thing and getting into all of that, because we don't understand what World War II, the Axis powers, the Allied, we don't, black people who even fought them wars, they don't even know what they were really doing. All of them wars was the last of our global armies, the Axis powers, fighting against the new Allied pseudo death cult Freemasons that had now taken over all of these governments through decoys. So the white Hitler, the white Victor Emmanuel, the white Mussolini, the white, all the pictures you're seeing, all them people was melanated. All the people was melanated, and they were fighting over how these Circassian slaves was being distributed throughout the empire. And it came into a mechanized war because Turkey, who was the old man of the West, the old Moorish, Osmanli, Ottoman empire that was over here in what they call the Barbary Coast, that we call the Atlantic coast of America. That was the original Barbary Coast. And the Fertile Crescent was what you call the Gulf of America right now. So you got the Fertile Crescent here. You got the Barbary Coast of the Barbary states and Barbary powers on this side. That's why they say from the shores, halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, right? So though that mechanized force in Germany came to power at the time that this thing called the Weimar Republic, which was run by these satanic, Talmudic, atheist, socialist, communist small hats, right? And they were doing transsexual, they were doing transgender surgeries out there. They were having sex with animals. They were doing all types of stuff in the Weimar Republic, right? So the National African Zulu Initiative started, aka the Nazis, right? Because Nazi come from Nazarene, right? This Nazarene party, which was headed by a dude named Mohammed Hossein, they called him Adolf. So this is happening. This movement is swelling up, and they getting voices, and enough power now because they descend from the original Pappenheim group, right? These are the Moors of the Holy Roman Empire. They descend from these guys directly. So these are black Germans. These are black Germans, black Prussians, and all of that, right? They wearing the Pickelhaube, which is the fez with the spike on it, all of that. So they have an order called the Thule Society, aka the Black Sun Society, in which they are developing all the ancient technology that they was able to acquire from Tibet and places like that. Because they when they talk about the Nazis doing all the occult stuff, this is the Nazi group that was doing that. So in response to this, the decoy powers of the day decided that they needed to do their own thing. So this is where Mr. Lichtenstein comes in, aka the white Adolf Hitler and the white Nazis. They now start coming in and creating their own party, the so-called Wolfenstappen or Nazi party, right, for these white people. And they start following the same rhetoric that the black Nazis are doing. But now what's happening is the white Nazis is working with the devils over here, Prescott Bush, all of these people, Hugo Boss, he designed the suits for them. Coco Chanel, she built the accessories and all of that for they fashion, the Nazi fashion. That's why the symbol of Nazi evil, the way that they have it, is technically the old Moorish uniforms, because that's what they designed for them, because they are mimicking the black Nazis or the black Germans with all the technology now that are now breaking away from the white ones. So all of this is happening in Germany, right? This breaks out here in America. All of the Moorish groups, people like Ahmed Sufi Ali, who was the so-called Black Hitler of Harlem, he's the one who got all of the Moorish groups together, or was working with the Moorish groups here in Harlem, basically to back up the Axis, because people like Jacob Astor and these people, they were backing the black ones. So they had to shut all of this down. So they started to attack the finance that was backing up these people. That's why they sunk the Titanic, because at Jacob Astor and Guggenheim and Hale and all of the rich Moorish, Creole, old German, big money families was on the boat. They sank the boat with them in it. Now they could set up the new Federal Reserve. They already got the new fake decoy Hitler thing, and now they're going to go the route of trying to basically assume power over the so-called Nazi Republic by basically acting like the Thule Society, the Black Sun Society didn't exist. So it's the Thule Society, the Black Sun, or what they call the Black Lodge. These are the Moors. These are the men in black. These are the Moors now who had taken the technology that was already there in Germany from their time in the Mauryan Empire, like I said, from India. And they were able to circumvent all of this in Tibet. So there's a book you can get on this called The Spandau Ballet. There's another book on this you can get called Base 21. There's another book called the Nazi Bell Society. But in those societies, once the Black Hitler and them decided they was going to bounce, they attacked the Reichstag on their way out. Go back in history and they'll say that the people who were at the Reichstag when they burned it up saw so-called UFOs dropping bombs on the ship from the side, and then they just disappeared. Where did they go? They wound up going to a place called New Swabia. New Swabia, what does Swabia mean? Swabia comes from Schwab or Schwarz, which means black or Moorish, right? Like Mork. Remember like Mork and Mindy? Mork and Ork? Mork means Moor. Or
Marvin the Martian.
Yes.
Morgan Freeman.
Yes. So they moved to New Swabia and set up the society up there. Where's New Swabia? Antarctica. So after the war, because now the white people, they gotta follow through with the fake war now. So they get Charlie Chaplin do a test movie called The Dictator, where they got him dressed like the white Hitler. People liked it, so then they started using him as the decoy for the real Hitler, for the real white Hitler. And then they started copying all of the stuff that was left. And then at the end of the war, they said, okay, now we're going to go to Antarctica and finally get them. They go out to Antarctica with all of the ships and everything, and we shut them down. The New Schwabians shut them all down to the point where they kicked their ass so bad, Admiral Byrd and them had to leave. And that's when they set up Operation High Jump and all that other type of stuff, trying to destroy the civilization by bombing the firmament. But it didn't work because the technology was too heavy. So then the New Schwabians, the black German Moors, Nazis, decided to then start attacking them. And this is why you start seeing all these white folks getting abducted by aliens, all of these stories about the aliens coming through and they only abducting white people. How come they never do black people? Because that's them. They're us. So what are they going to do? They're going to tell you that they aliens. They're going to tell you that they everything else, when these are really just ancient Moors, or Moors from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, who consolidated their money, their technology, went to a place they couldn't go, and ever since then, to stop any of us from doing the knowledge to this, right? What did they do? They started the space race, created the fake moon landing, created the story with Kubrick, created all of the moon fake shit, the Apollo landings, all of this other type of stuff. Because while you focusing on that, they trying to figure out how to get into the real place, the real ultimate interdimensional portals and stuff. And then that's when they stuck. So ever since then, the UFOs, the men in black, the cigar-shaped ships have been bombing them, attacking them, taunting them, messing with them. And they've been trying to reverse engineer the technology to figure out how they could deal with it, but they can't. So they're going to propagate it to be like it's somebody else, when really it's us. So you can look up New Schwabia. There's another book called UFO, The Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots. And in that book, it talks about how Malcolm X was visited by the men in black and all of that. So yeah, all that technology, UFO, Vecmana technology, all that's our stuff that is functioning on a higher plane. So because we haven't vibrationally reached there at that point, they're basically just playing cat and mouse with these people until enough of us wake up. So that's why they got to do a fake alien invasion. That's why they got to do a fake this and that, because we are our ancestors' return. So we don't really have nothing to worry about, because all of these movies show you that it always go back to the Moors. So let's let them do that. And in the meantime, clean ourselves up so that way we don't get wiped out with the rest of these low vibration people. You know?
Appreciate it. Let us know where they can find you at, where they can Cash App you at.
Thank you, man.
With the Cash App, I put $DS418. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, okay, sir. I appreciate you. You could, anybody want to hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. Money sign, capital DS418. And what do you call it?
Comic book.
Yes, please. Let me show you real quick. Yes, if you can go to www.aseerteers.com.
We got to
and check out the world's. So you guys can check out the world's most dangerous comic book novel. That's this joint. It's basically everything that's going on now and more. I wrote it as if I would, just in case I never got to write another one, I just put it all in here. Matter of fact, in Sinners, the movie, if anybody who read my book, if you go to page 116 in my book, there's a whole chapter in there called Wrongdoers Respect Me, even in the Devil's Juke joint. And I believe strongly that they read this and basically adapted elements of that from this. Not only me, but also from some Alice Walker's book. But if you read this section, you get this book and you read the section and you watch Sinners, you tell me what you think. Mm-hmm. So definitely watch it, bro.
It's a knowledge book and a comic book.
Yes, it's a comic book novel. So it's words and text, but I got the pictures. I wrote it, drew it. I had help, brother Mashindu Kumba. He was able to redraw a lot of my original drawings and turn them into this. And it's all about what I'm talking to y'all about right now. It's really a good read. I even got them people in there.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
Right? I even got our people. I got the Tartarian buildings in it. Show a sister real quick. Oh, you like this one? There's a section in it that takes place in the past between Prince Hall and Baron Decameron, who's the real George Washington. So I got them in there. I just tried to just say, how could I express this whole history and stuff that has happened to us in a manner where the people could get it without it being always in the form of a textbook or something like that. So I said, why not do a comic book novel also to promote literacy? So yeah, that's another character in it. Nice. So definitely check that out if you can. Also, please check out www.aseer.com, www.cordovaorganics.com, and also if you go to Apple and Google Play, you can go to a.app. I have my own app on there. We update it all the time. So please subscribe if you can. It's one of the only Moorish apps out there. And again, I strive to all the stuff they be trying to block me on YouTube talking about. I put it all on there. So definitely please check that out. And yeah, thank you guys for the donations to moneysigncapitalds418.com. And thank you guys for having me on, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Honest, guys.
Talk to you in a bit.
So yeah, anything else, just please hit me up.
And be
Thank
sure
you
to
for your knowledge.
We love you, brother. Stay legendary.
You as well, boss.
And then always know when you're in Southern California, tap in. We got to meet together. We have the Virtual Reality University. I love to build with you on that.
Let's do it.
So let me know if you need anything with the VR headsets, anything that you need to chat. VR.
Yeah, well, I definitely will build with you on that. I definitely need help with some technology stuff. So I'll definitely be hitting you up on that for real. I honor you guys. I really appreciate you guys having me, okay?
Yeah, definitely. We thank you for coming. Thank you for your knowledge. And give love to Selena.
I will.
Yes,
I will. She says peace. Peace, Moors. Happy Holy Day.
Always,
Peace,
brother.
everybody. I love you guys.
I love you.
Lana's a big fan. She wanted to talk to you and Aseer. So, yeah.
No, I saw.
Stay quiet, but she wants y'all to know.
Much love, you guys.
Much love to you too. I saw you on Brother Rich's channel, and I told Jason, I said, I know her. She's my sister in the cosmos.
Right.
So
honest.
Yeah. So much love.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
You
Thank
too.
you so much for the support.
Happy Holy Day, Nobles. Long live the Empire, man.
Peace, King. Peace, Noble.
Wadu.
And love you guys for tuning in. Lana, as you see, she broke it down with the parasites and everything else. But once again, Return of the Moors, Return of the Ancient Ones. I'm Jason Elm Street Williams, Master of the Universe. And as always now, we're going to end with some of my new music. Peace and love. This song's called America.
You are now rocking with Jason Elm Street.
He's a beast, don't forget the money, man.
I love America, but she's so dangerous, dangerous. I love America, but she's so dangerous. Somebody call her Superman, Iron Man of kryptonite. The wolves say it's chow time, what we about to eat tonight. What happened on Epstein Island, did it really take your life? I'm deeper than the ocean floor and higher than a satellite. Yes, I am an alchemist, I murder rebel salesman. Walk with no religion, it's the return of the ancient Egyptians. West Coast, California, my family is Riverside. In the empire, none of us ain't a lullaby. This is where the gods dwell and a lot of mothers cry. You can feel the thunder cry. Tall nation, future chief on the rise. From a different dimension, Star Trek Enterprise. I love America, but she's battleships. Roswell crashes, you up for flying